Hi everyone, this is Ryan Reagan, the founding partner of HKExcel. So if you're watching this video right now, I suppose you have an IO coming up. Okay, so the IO is very, very important. It makes up over 20% of your IB score. Okay, and the IO is a new assessment in a new IB English syllabus, so a lot of you may be confused. So in this video, I'm going to share with you some level 7 tips on how you can do great on your IO, okay? Or the interactive oral is a very, very important assessment, right? If you're an SL student, it's going to be 30% of your IB score. If you're HF student, it's going to be 20%. So it's almost as important as an exam paper. So this is something you should take very seriously. So what do you need to do for your IO? First of all, the IO is a 10-minute oral presentation. It's going to be one-on-one between you and your teacher, right? Your classmates won't be watching. Right, and then you have 5 minutes Q&A. So what is this oral presentation about? So first step, you need to select a literary work, a non-literary work, and a global issue, right? So we'll go into more details later. But anyways, in your presentation, you need to talk about like how the global issue is being portrayed in two works, the non-literary work and the literary work. So the work you select, like the literary work and the non-literary work, is something you studied in your IB studies, right? One more thing is from the two texts, from the literary work and the non-literary work, you need to select an extract. So for example, if for the literary work you want to talk about The Great Gatsby, you need to select a passage or an extract from The Great Gatsby to comment on during your IO, right? On the other hand, for the non-literary text, you may or may not select an extract, right? Because it could be your non-literary text can be a very short piece of work. It can be just an advertisement or even a poster, right? So if it's short, then you don't need to select an extract. But if your non-literary work is long, then you should select an extract. The extract needs to maximum is 40 lines, right? So hope this is clear. So let's move. Explain just now, you need to select a global issue to comment on, right? So your entire interactive oral is about linking the works you study to a global issue. So you talk about how the global issue is being portrayed in the two works, right? Now, so what's a global issue? So the IB says that it needs to be significant, so it needs to be a very important issue. It needs to be transnational, so something that happens in all nations, and the impact needs to be felt in everyday life, right? So for example, wealth inequality, class inequality, gender inequality, class conflicts, racial inequality. All of these are examples, good examples of a global issue. So global issue can have multiple categories. So these are some suggested by the IB, like culture, identity, community, beliefs, values, and education, politics, power and justice, art, creativity, imagination, and science, technology, environment, right? So if you have trouble getting a global issue, because I don't know what work you're studying, it really depends on the text you're studying at school to pick your global issue, right? So if you need help when selecting a global issue, you can register for a trial lesson with us. Our IB experts, we have studied almost all of the IB text. Okay, so we can help you to pick a very easy global issue where you can easily get a level 7, right? So you can register the link below if you're interested. Okay, so let us now move on. So now let us look at the rubric. The rubric is very important, right? So you know how it is graded, right? So there are basically 4 criteria. It's 10 marks for each criteria, right? So the first one is knowledge, understanding, and interpretation. So this is about how well you understand the text, right? Your knowledge of the text, right? The second part is analysis and evaluation, which is how well you analyze the text, how you analyze the extract you chose. The next one is organization and focus. So it's how well you structure your IO, like whether you speak in the logical flow or not. The fourth is language. So you're supposed to use an academic register, and you need to use good literary terminology, right? So this is the criteria, and this is what you need to keep in mind when you prepare. Next, I want to show you the ideal structure for the IO, right? So I would recommend that you follow the structure. It's very easy. So in your introduction, you use about 1 minute. So you talk about the global issue. So you say the global issue I'll be focusing on today is blah, 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 right? And you can briefly talk about why it is important. So you can say this issue is widely seen in all countries, for example, recently, blah, blah, blah. So just comment on the global issue. This can be 10 to 20 to 30 seconds, right? Then you introduce your two works. So you can say, oh, the literary work I'll be exploring is blah, 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 written by da-da-da-da-da. And the non-literary work I'll be commenting on is XXXXX, and the writer is blah, 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 right? Then you briefly talk about how the global issue. So just state your thesis. So for example, you can say, oh, in The Great Gatsby, the writer uses symbolism and characterization to to address the global issue of class inequality, something like that. So just state something like that, a blanket statement to summarize your viewpoint, right? This is like your introduction. Then you basically have then you go to your body paragraph, right? So your first body paragraph, you talk about how the writer addresses the global issue in the overall text. So for example, you can talk about how does the writer uses characterization to make his point, whether there is symbolism used in the text, or whether there are motifs, or the context. How does the context help the writer to address the global issue, right? So it's different for different texts, but remember you need to use the PEE method, which is point, evidence, and explanation, right? So this is very important. You need to back up your point ideally with quotes as well. Then in your second part, the next body paragraph, you can go to the extract, right? So when you talk about the extract, it is very important for you to say why you chose this extract. So you can say, well, this extract is very, very important because blah, 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 blah. Talk about why you chose the extract, and then you analyze the extract, okay? You can highlight different things from the extract and analyze them, like using the PEE method, right? Now, so then you repeat these two body paragraphs, but for your non-literary work, right? So after you talk about your literary work, then you go to non-literary work, right? So this, you should use about like 4 minutes for each, right? Yeah, 4 minutes for the literary work, 4 minutes for the non-literary work, and then you talk about and then you can make your conclusion. Just summarize the key arguments that you have made, right? So this is really the structure that I think you should follow. Interactive oral, it really depends on the text you're studying, but in this video I hope to give you some very useful general tips, right? So how should you prepare for this? Now, so the first thing I would suggest you to do is you can download our Level 7 sample. We have a Level 7 sample that is done by a top IB English student. So we have, you can download in the link in the description, right? So it's in the YouTube description. You can just download it and you can listen to it. It's an MP3, right? So you can listen to how a top student goes about the IO, how he lays out his entire IO, how he speaks, the structure, etc. And then second point is, because the IO is something you can prepare, right? So I would suggest you to really write a full essay before going to the IO. And then, of course, after writing a full essay, you should practice. It's best if you can get someone to practice with you. If you can't, then a good idea is to record yourself, and you can listen back to yourself to see how you can improve, right? Now, the next thing is you can book a trial lesson with us to help you on your IO, because in this video it's very difficult for me to tell you everything you need to know, because different students do different texts. But you book a lesson with our IB English experts. Our IB English experts will know the exact text that you're doing. So we'll be able to help you to identify the global issue that is most relevant to your text, and we can help you to pick a very easy global issue to score a high mark. And then we can help you to pick your extract. We can help you to analyze the text together, analyze the extract together to come up with great arguments, right? Then, as I said, I suggest you to type your essay. So we'll help you to refine your essay, right? So that you can, after you have your essay, you basically memorize it and you speak it, right? So we'll do practice with you, and our tutor can even act as your teacher and do a Q&A session with you, right? So practice answering questions, right? That is very important, right? So I hope you find that this video is useful. So in this video, I gave you a lot of general tips, but if you want tips specific to your text, then you can book a trial lesson with us, right? Okay, so hope to see you soon.